Hi there, I'm Tracy Ann Burgess and welcome to the Change Channel. Yesterday we were talking about releasing, about after you've gone through a huge life change, your world's been flipped on its head and you're dealing with lots of different emotions and you're having to release your life of the past and step in to building your future life for yourself. There is a moment, there is a decision time where you recognize that and then you make a choice. Okay, all of these things, like yesterday I was equating them to ribbons, like all of these things, maybe relationships, maybe property, maybe habits, mindsets, dreams, goals, all of these ribbons that were kind of attached to you that were going into the future, suddenly kind of like being cut. And you might have had something to do with it. You might not have had something to do with it. Either way, the change has happened. And then you've got to think, okay, how am I and it could be really sudden. Some of these things can be really sudden and then you can be like really in shock. And there is a moment there of release, of needing to release some of these things. There might have been some goals, some dreams. There might be material things. You might have to release a lot of money. You might have to release property. You might have to release a partner or a child or an animal or anything. You also will need to change and release your identity. There's the kicker. There's actually the kicker. Because while some of these other things can kind of look, they can be physical and they can be really difficult, but it's kind of like the unseen, constructed identity that you have in your mind of yourself that could be attached to certain roles. They could be professional, they could be romantic, they could be personal, they could be all sorts of roles that you've had. Maybe some of those roles are suddenly no longer applicable, and you're needing to release them. And then where does that leave you? It kind of leaves you unplugged, and it leaves you in a situation where you're needing to come back into yourself and do more being, not so much doing. So your identity is actually then more attached to who you really are as a person, as opposed to the things that you do or have done, as the case may be. Because let's face it, now a lot of it's going to be in the past. And a sense of humour is required, right? Actually, a sense of humour is essential, as you might know, nights of, because when there's sometimes releasing these things like, no, don't go, and you're kind of holding on through the storm. Some of those things are needing to be released. So the idea is to kind of look at it as not something that you're losing, but actually in terms of gaining. Because if you can start stepping back into yourself more and more, start looking into yourself, at your inner world more and more, start building that up. It might have been neglected for some time. You might have been an incredibly busy person, and also you might be a person that's totally attached to all your external roles, your external achievements, the external glory, these wonderful things that you've achieved in the past that you're super proud of. And then suddenly the game's changed. Hello. And look, we've all been there. That's why you're here watching this. We've all been there. I've been there. So it's a matter not of what you're losing, but what you're gaining. So I think the start of reinvention is always coming back into yourself, building your inner strength, building your internal world, recognizing, valuing, and acknowledging who you are without all the stuff, without all the trimmings, right? I remember it just came to me when I first came back to Australia from Asia after I'd lost my business. I had this really strong, I was starting to write things down, and I just had this really strong terrifying image when I think about it now. But it's a really strong image of me. I was standing naked in an abandoned lot, like in an abandoned plot of land in the city with a storm just blowing around me. And I was just standing there naked. And I was just like, bang. That's what it was like. I felt like I had nothing. And I didn't. But actually still I did. If I go to count what I had, I still had my primary relationship with my partner. I still had my children. I still had my health. They all had their health. You know, there were so many things that I was grateful for. I still had a roof. I still had a bed. I still had some, not all, loving family. And so it was a matter of, okay, counting what I have. And in my internal world, I also still had a lot available and a lot accessible for me. And I looked in there and I built it up more and more and more. And I just kept building and building. I kept building and I kept building and I kept referring to even my name, even saying my name more helped my identity. Tracy Ann Burgess. I am Tracy Ann Burgess. It might sound a little bit out there, but it was some song, I think it was Jason Mraz in one of his songs. I think it was Detail in the Fabric. And he talks about remembering your name. So like remembering who you are. Before you had a chance to build up anything else or build any identity in your life, really who you are. And that might sound a little bit esoteric, and I suppose it is. That's a good thing. Building up the being of who I am was so important. Some of the things then that I knew that I loved to do, I knew that I loved to be creative. And amazingly, even though other parts of my brain actually weren't working, probably for about 12 months because the shock and the burnout and the distress, and I'd also lost a very, very close family member at the same time, my father. There were still things that were untouched in me. There was still not just abilities, but my gifts were still there. My gifts were still there. And like my creative gift, my gift of creativity that nurtures and nourishes me was still there. So I was sort of just starting to draw and just taking baby steps in getting myself just creative again. I was like, started like knitting and drawing without thinking about an outcome. And just creating things, costumes, and just creating things just to be active. Because sometimes it's the shock and the stun, and then other times, and you just need to be and just be in the now. But other times I needed to be active. I needed to move that energy of kind of the shock and awe energy. I needed to move that a little bit. And so you might need to go out into nature. You might need to do something that you love. You might need to go ice skating. You might need to, I don't know, create, do whatever you like. Whatever lights your fire, whatever lights you up, even just a small way, bring some joy in, and stay away from the story for a while and just be involved in something that really lights you up. Something that I suggested to do is a small exercise that I suggested to do in one of my cards, where was in the treasury, which is about counting your inner treasure, is to do a brilliance board. So a brilliance board, I just came up with this idea because I was thinking, oh God, I was feeling like a little bit empty, a little bit bereft of talent, bereft of value, worthiness, all those big guns. And so I thought, oh God, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done in my life, you know? And so I started doing just like a small kind of like little exhibition of things that I had achieved in my life. Now, I know this isn't, I was just talking about being in yourself, but it was a good reminder to me that what things that I was capable of my capacity to achieve things and achieve things that I actually really love to achieve, and things that I was really proud of. And so I got a cork board, and I put up different photos and different things of myself, like photos from the cover of the record that I did years ago, and photos of me singing, just like what I did years ago. Photos of me on the horse. I couldn't find my horse ribbons, but I would have put up my horse ribbons, and different things. Oh yeah, photos of me accepting awards at fashion awards, and for things that I'd put in there, and different cards and labels and swing tags of my fashion labels that I've had, different things that I've done. And I sat back and I kind of looked at it when I was feeling, oh boy, like this is sort of like the clean slate scenario. It was a building block. It helped me to build, and it also helped me to see where my natural talent comes from and what I love. So I'm obviously a creative, but that wasn't always kind of apparent to me, and it was helpful as a hard copies of things in front of me to see. Wow, yeah, I'm a member of the APRA because I've written and performed songs, and I just started to, and all sorts of achievements. I've even put up there quotes of people. I've just written them on paper, quotes where I've really appreciated, and sometimes be surprised at really complimentary that some people that have said things to me, people that I've really respected. And I've always remembered them all my life, and I thought, I'm going to write that up. It's evidence of other people believing in me when I was feeling very, very vulnerable, and I was starting, my belief in myself was shakeable. It had been shaken. It had been fully flushed down the toilet, let me tell you that, for a little while. And it's kind of hard to believe now, but and it has taken a lot of little steps, but it takes action. It takes little action steps, and only steps that I was prepared to take at the time that didn't overwhelm me too much, because I was jostling, I was recalibrating, I was reprioritizing, and there's a lot that's going on in your mind that is shifting around, but little empowering steps to help me come back into who I was, for me to recognize my value, my talent, my gifts, my worthiness, my identity of who I am. So it wasn't actually in what that I achieved in seeing that on the brilliance board. It was recognizing all of my abilities and all of my what that symbolized for me. It symbolized my determination, it symbolized my tenacity, my creativity, my entrepreneurial nature. It symbolized that I can be a real firebrand, that I really am a go-getter, and I'm never satisfied with a small picture. I want more, I want expansion, I want adventure and excitement, and I've always loathed mediocrity. I'm just never happy in it. So, but after I went through my big life change, I was, it's a very vulnerable time. So I just needed to, as a reminder of all of those natural things. They are natural to me. They're not something that I have to force. So to do your own little brilliance board can be a really great thing. I suggest that you think about getting that together. You don't have to. You might not be in a situation where you have all those photos. Doesn't matter. Just put down some quotes. Draw your own horse ribbons that you got. Write your own ballet report, or your own whatever it was. I don't mean to. That's just my stuff. That's just my stuff. But whatever is yours, just create it. Even if you've had your whole house burnt down and you've lost everything in a flood and you've whatever. You can still remember some of these things and just make them up and put them on the board and just remind yourself of just how brilliant you really are. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again probably in the next couple of days. I'm busy tomorrow, so I may not, but you never know. I'm having such good fun. I just might come and post again. Thanks again Bye for now.